the lunch break. I hope you guys have a delicious lunch. Um, I'll be moderating this second session of today, where the theme is Pathway to Restoration, Sustainable Development, and Ecological Recovery. Before I begin this session, I would like to recite a short quotation by Mahatma Gandhi. The earth, the air, the land, and the water are not an inheritance from our forefather, but on loan from our children. So we have to hand over to them at least as it was handed over to us by Mahatma Gandhi ji. Without taking much time, I would like to call upon our today's session's chairperson and four esteemed speakers. So when I call upon the name, kindly our chairperson and four speakers kindly grace the stage. We have our chairperson, Dr. Pramod Kumar Sinha. And we have our first speaker, Dr. S. Sadapate. Second speaker, Professor Savida Kekar. And third speaker, we have Mr. Somya Dutta. And last, we have Dr. Sahin Nijawan. Thank you so much for your presence. Now, I would like to hand over the mic to our chairperson, Dr. Pramod Kumar Sinha. Kindly lead this session.
Good afternoon. I think post-lunch session has always been a little bit challenging, and especially for a person like us who has vast experience of organizing conferences, more than 500 conferences. So we know the challenges. Nevertheless, ladies, esteemed speakers on dais, Director of Tibet House Institution, very young enthusiastic participants sitting over here, and dear organizers. A warm welcome from all of the speaker side to all of you to this post-lunch session, which will be more of interactive. In the first session, we have already listened various aspects of ecological disturbances, the strategies, the solutions we would be looking forward would be the need of the hour. If we are honest to address these challenges. So once again, I would like to thank the organizer. I would like to thank Sri Rishikesh Sharanji, IRS, who has been inspirational force to me for many decades, not a year. He visited my professional institution, BIT Mesra, when I was a student and he was the deputy commissioner. So you all can imagine how strong inspirational force has been to me and to many of my colleagues who served government and many other international organizations. As a child, I have been inspired by my parents, and this has been a great source of both physical and mental strength, which helped me to pass through many adversities within government, outside government, personal life, outside life. I was inspired by the teachings of Gita. I was inspired by the teachings of Lord Buddha as a child. And during the course of my life of 6+ decades, wherever there have been any opportunity, I would always prefer to practice that instead of preaching. I am inspired by His Holiness the Dalai Lama ji, his teachings on importance of the natural environment, stating that especially it is our home and a source of our well-being. So this small sentence should inspire each one of the participants sitting here, and I would request post session they should think of becoming ambassador for this social and national cause. As I said, my association with nature has been since childhood. By grace of God, I was born at a place, a small place, which was surrounded by hill, lakes, river, and this helped me to gradually develop the love for nature. The project of the government of India where my father used to serve was surrounded by tribal villages. So I could see the difference between have and have nots from very childhood. And this always helped me to be always kind to the surroundings and always graceful to the God who blessed us to see, to be a part of haves and to become a source of inspiration for have nots. The same inspiration we should carry for our Mother Earth. As you all know, plants, flora, or animals, in spite of their inherent strength, they can't speak. They can't seek if they need anything. Even though they are being destroyed or cut, they are just witnessing themselves. So there could be legal framework. There could be strategies and policies in place. There could be policy advocacy. But unless we all become messenger of this national cause or environmental cause, this mission is impossible. Humankind and we all will have to come forward. No government alone, no society alone can fulfill these dreams unless each and everyone sitting here and beyond this back building understand the need these environmental disturbances are looking forward, the kind of repair or the degree of repair is required, and let us understand with your small initiatives you can be a partner to this ecological repair, environmental repair, environmental ecosystem. As I said, I could see since childhood it naturally developed a kind of love for plants, herbs, and many of you sitting here might be also having same interest. This helped us to even identify which is the plant, which is the herb, what kind of herb, which season this need to be planted, and this habit helped me to implant at least 1000 plant or trees every year. I never write anywhere, I never publish anywhere, but every year more than 1000 plant or trees I am planting. I never write it. A small habit all of you sitting here can develop. You can have a basket with some soil in that. Put all your jamun आप खा रहे हैं तो जामुन का, mango खा रहे हैं, all tree seeds you put there and keep throwing some soil over it. In 15 or 1 month, days or 1 month, it will get germinated. You take it to any isolated place or place where they require it. This I have been doing for more than two decades now. So this is small habit. A small habit without any publicity, without any advertisement. You can plant at least 100 to 500 plants every year. And this I have been practicing for almost 2 decades now. So these are all small initiatives. You don't need to publish, you don't need to advocate too much. These habits can be inculcated in every house. And think the magnum of this, if some at least 50% of us adopt this, how far it is going to support your individual. Number one. We are standing at pivotal ecological crossroads, and threats of either climate change or deforestation or biodiversity loss, environmental injustice are all known to us. We don't need to tell us. Nobody is required to tell us. We are all knowing. Nowadays, media, information houses are providing all sorts of information. The need of the hour is to come up. The need of the hour is to stand up in a small way or big way. A small way you can do alone. Big way you can join like Tibet House and any other such organizations which are endeavoring for social, national or international cause. Let us admit all these challenges demand beyond our political and scientific approach. They need engagement of each and every stakeholders of the society, right from government to corporates to schools, academic institutions and individuals. As some of our speakers in the previous session used to convey, our school children need to be taught. So by saying that, we would like to convey that our academic institutions, our schools also need to become ambassador for this social and national cause. Each of our child, right from home to school and college, need to be taught about hygiene, environmental disturbances, and some small possible way of ecological repair. As one of the issue of plastic use or misuse was coming up, if our children are being taught, you will not find throwing plastics or other packs in any parks. Generally, you will find children going playing, and then after drinking their cold drinks or any using their uncle chips and all, they are throwing their way without any. So this is not disturbing your only hygiene part. This is also disturbing your ecology part. Who will going to teach it? You can only place. I am general secretary of the RW also, president of RW also. We are placing everywhere. Don't throw anywhere, but every alternate day you will find somewhere. So who is going to take the responsibility? Basically, the child and the parents. So every house will have to become the ambassador. Then only small or big way you can contribute. Who is going to throw your flowers and those things in Jamna or Ganga? In spite of big barrier over Jamna bridge in Delhi also, you find still cars are stopping, they are throwing in Jamna only. So who is going to? Any legal framework or advocacy alone will never help unless we change our behavior, we are disciplined ourselves. We will have to stop. And those flowers can be used to convert into manures. So these things they need to understand. They will have to become party. They will have to become partner to any drive of the government. Government alone cannot do. It is not possible. Especially for country like ours with more than that, close to 150 crore population. So right way is to start from childhood. If it is properly inculcated as a child, you will make him or her a good human being, a good ambassador of the society, a good ambassador for the environmental cause. Fortunately, we have very eminent speakers and experts for this session, and I'm sure they will be discussing in detail on solutions the present era look for, on strategies we are requiring at this stage which can help in proper ecological repair. I remember as a government servant, one day our honorable minister called our secretary and we were along with him, and he simply asked, bring me now ratna, he's throwing finger like this, now ratna jo Akbar ke darbar mein hote the. And this was the one sentence of Morasali Maranji which we practitioner converted into a policy we called Navratna and Mini Ratna, and today we have Maharatnas also. This is one line. So what require any policy or advocacy is not converted, it need to be engagement of key stakeholders. So we organized CEO's conference. We took confidence of those practitioners who are actually going to implement, and then we asked for how much autonomy, financial or physical, they would be looked as a CMD or board of director, and that's how that policy was developed, implemented, and now from Navratna to Maharatna. Similarly, there were many industries that those were sick, and when I started going through, I said I recognize that the more we refer the cases to BFR and Sika, the more industries are sick. So I spoke to Mr. or Honorable Minister Manohar Joshi ji, who was ex-Chief Minister of Maharashtra also. Yes, sir, unnecessarily we are sending this to those specialized bodies. The more we are, he said, you come with a graph and explain me. I explained him. Last 5 years, how many, the graph is going like that. Then he asked me, what is the solution? So that's why I request everybody sitting here. When you go for problem or go with problem, be ready with solution. I said, repeal it, sir. In government, conveying a officer to before the honorable minister is very risky. But I openly conveyed, sir, repeal it. The more you refer, the more they will be sick. And that's how the act was repealed, BFR mechanism was stopped, and now public sectors are not shown to those bodies. So we will have to come with the solution. In similar environment, you will have to think about our ecological, environmental issues. Simply conveying and crying that things are damaged is not the right approach. We'll have to come up, we'll have to think what is the remedial solution. And there has to be both short term as well as long term solution which need to be implemented. Short term, as I said, for every small thing, you stop throwing anything in Yamuna river, you stop you start seeding at your home and planting to nearby locations where you don't have any trees and plants. These are the short terms. But long terms, we'll have to plant properly. How every area will be covered, how every river will be covered, how every aquatic systems will be covered, how the forests which have been deserted can be bring back to forestation again, how soil erosion can be stopped. There were norms that all open parks need to be drilled at least 20 feet to 30 feet before rainy season so that our groundwater level can be maintained. But this need to be implemented by the local authorities. Hardly I see, especially where I stay, I don't see anything. So I personally take interest so that the entire, when we shifted to that location, it was not green. But we now thousands of trees around are there. So it is a green place now. Maximum trees can be seen there. So these need to be taken up by local authority, local stakeholders, individuals, civil societies. Every will have to take part to participate in this. Then only the vision or the dream you are looking for, or during this session or any such similar session, you can fulfill. Unless you come out with solution or some strategy which can be implemented in long run or short term, we will be continued to discussing like this and there will be no solution. For that, the concept of karma, therefore, need to be understood. As Rishiji has conveyed the teachings of Buddha, it has a very long lasting impact if someone tries to understand. Similarly, if you go to the teachings of Gita, it has long lasting impacts. Only thing, every teaching cannot be implemented in every problem. Every problem need to be understood separately, and there has to be tailor made solution. किसी एक बात का कोई उद्देश्य या कोई बात कही गई और उसमें कुछ कहा गया कि गीता में या बुद्ध जी ने ऐसा कहा है, यू कैनॉट अप्लाई एवरीवेयर. It has to be tailor made. So that's why whenever any management or any system takes charge of correcting such remedial things or measures, they look for tailor made solutions. They look for local solutions which can help. And that's why it is always said, think global, act local, so that it helps your surroundings. As a practitioner, I was also preaching mission humanity, and many of my colleagues in government and private used to ask, what is mission humanity? And my answer used to be very simple: connecting your family, your friends, your society, and your earth. And I used to contribute part of my salary every month for this cause for almost 15-17 years. And when gold used to be 3400 तोला जो कहते थे, my wife Ranjana used to say कि कुछ, I have two daughters, कि कुछ बच्चों के लिए गोल्ड तो ले लो. But whenever I used to visit the tribal ladies and children in poor villages, they used to ask me, sir, kuch kijiye. Speak. MLA used to add. Then I created Learn and Earn. This concept was created by me, which finally government adopted as a Learn and Earn. कि वो उनको सिखाओ और कमाओ. तो I started opening center for tribal women in Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bihar and UP, so that I donated some stitching machines, provided some trainings for them, and donated all those machines to them so that they start earning. Similarly, when I visited one of the village in West Bengal, tribal moist village, 20 youth came to me. I asked what you are doing. वो बंगला में मुझे बोले, काकू रात्रि बेला हमरा ट्रक लूटी. मतलब during night they were looting the old trucks. And so I asked, how can you stop this? They told me, give us training for the driving. We will start driving the truck and we will not looting the trucks. So that's how I arranged there for all those 20 boys, 30 days driving learning session. They got license. I paid for everything. And then a small transformation. So I'm sharing of this purpose was, you practice yourself during your lifetime. During your lifetime. When I came to Delhi, many people needed blood. Northeast Assam family came, they needed 7 unit blood. I was a young officer in 90, even bachelor. They all came, sir, kahin se blood nahi mil raha hai. And the surgery was required at AIMS. I went. That was my first experience of donating blood. And then it became passion. Almost all hospitals of Delhi I have donated blood. So why I am sharing, all you sitting here, you can be part of this society, and you should always feel grateful that God has given everything to you. If you are sitting in this chamber, you should feel thankful to the God. You see in the street many child sitting, and you can realize the difference. You can realize the difference one set of you sitting here and the children sitting in the streets. So always thankful to the grace, to God. Whatever they have given or he or she has given to you and to your parents. My first and last sentence always used to be in any session. Always thankful to your parents. If you are thankful to your parents, you will be thankful to God or Mother Earth. If you are not thankful to your parents, you will never be a person who can be trusted or tried for any responsible job. This is my life experience. That's why I'm sharing with you. And since now we are 60 plus, so with command I can convey to you. One of the students sitting here, he is doing PhD. I conveyed during his lifetime we will never get time. I was selected for IT. They said leave the government job, come for PhD. I was selected for DU. They said leave the job and come for PhD. I could. Then when I was 57, then one of my senior who was vice chancellor, he said now you register yourself for PhD. And when I completed my PhD, I was 62. So it's all, I can tell all youth sitting here. Inspiration, passion has nothing to do with age. Nothing to do with age. And I completed my every submission well in time. Even final submission, they give me 6 months. I completed in 3 months and handed over to it. So why I'm conveying? Respect the time. Respect the moment. Then only you can be an ambassador to the society, a person your parents can trust, a person society can consider you as a resource. We have some global standards also that need to be followed. We have stepwise ecological restoration framework, which also conveyed tailor-made specific needs and conditions for the ecosystem. Therefore, as I said, our approach has to be pragmatic, aspirational, like reforestation with native trees, natural regeneration, pollution remediation, fish recovery, etc. As far as government is concerned, Government of India has been endeavoring for many years. Rate of success may be visible, may be understood or not understood. Nevertheless, there are examples which Government of India has done, like Sundarban mangrove restoration of Thal Lake Maharashtra, Western Ghat, Thal Lake Gujarat and Western Ghat Maharashtra. These are glaring examples where Government of India has done commendable job in restoring the nature and the flora. Similarly, Niti Aayog has been endeavoring for sustainable development goals. We have also been part of that system for many years. And all these areas which we are talking today are part of this SDGs which Niti Aayog is taking care. As many of our learned, esteemed practitioners are sitting here, I'll not take much time. Maybe they will throw some better light on some of the glaring issues, challenging issues today we are talking of. I am sure this conference will help in creating inclusion platform for dialogue, sharing views, coming out with some conclusion of today's session which can be shared with other platforms or the government to forge pathways rooted in ethical responsibility, social equity and ecological sustainability. With these words, I would like to once again convey my sincere thanks to Vensi Dorji ji for his inspirational thoughts for this society and mankind, his valuable inspirational dialogues, his time and devotion for the society. I would also once again like to convey my deep respect to Sri Rishikesh Saranji and all the organizers giving me this opportunity, sharing my thoughts. Since time is limited, I would not like to be in between and rather prefer to speak, give time to my esteemed speakers. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. S. Satpathy ji. Dr. Satpathy ji is a seasoned environmental scientist with over 40 years of experience in the field of industrial pollution, climate change, and environmental policy. He holds an MPhil in botany and a PhD in life science with research focused on mercury effluents from the chloroalkali industry. He began his career from Central Pollution Control Board, served in key scientific roles in Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change since 1984 to 2016, and could lead major national programs on ozone layer protection, climate change, worked with various ministries, state agencies, and international organizations like UNDP, UNEP, World Bank, ADB, etc. He has been a key contributor to the ODS rules, National Action Plan on Climate Change, and several state action plans. So now over to Dr. Satpathy ji.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar. Respected chair of the session and distinguished speakers and director of the house and all my seniors and my youngers, my best wishes. This is an opportunity given by Tibet House to me to be here to share my experience and analyze the issue in the context of global and national issues. And in the previous session regarding the legal implications and how the whole system under law have been explained. And here I will just analyze what it is and how it is located or how it is seen at global stage and how we are viewing at national stage and subnational, and I've come down to it at individual stages. Just I would like to here clarify what we are talking is climate change and what we are feeling is weather. Like today we have seen that weather has been forecast. But from newspaper you might have seen that last 10 years temperature has been increasing, or rain pattern has been changing, or cold nights are less, warm days are more. This is climate change. Here, just I have shown what is, again, we are talking frequently climate change and global warming. There is hairline difference, but climate change, global warming is a factor of climate change because the warming is happening because of human influence, and there is change in the climate system, and overall we are talking is climate change. And this is again naturally it is happening since last 4.3 billion years ago when the earth was created. The change is a continuous phenomenon. But why we are serious today? Because of the anthropogenic climate change, what we are observing today, and how it has been governed, and what is the climate change governing, and how the policies have been emerged, all these things we will discuss. Here I have explained what is governance. We know government, we are know the process of government is governing, and the whole system is the governance system. And in the governance system, here in the process, it has a structure, it has a practice, and it has power to take decision and to implement it and monitor and review. Similarly, the climate governance refers to framework of policies, where the policies were made and what is the institutions and what was the mechanism designed to address the climate change. That I will explain in my presentation. And it operates at global, national level, and ensuring efforts to mitigate climate change and adapt to Here, when we are talking of mitigating climate change, here again I am clarifying that climate change is linked to global warming. Global warming is linked to anthropogenic activity. Our human activity emits some gases. That I will come to that point again. Since when we have initiated these changes? Prior to 1712, the energy what it was changed by mostly European for their economic development: water, air, and wood. And there has been change, the transitioning. What we are talking today, energy transition, transition to some net zero, all these things we are talking. This transitioning has been happening. It started from 1712. First steam engine was invented, where they have used coal instead of wood. Thereafter, it started, and the industry, what we call after 18th century, industrial evolution started. Mostly these things happened in Europe, and very specifically in UK. That's why in geography you might have, we have read in our geography, there was black England and white England. Means industrially that England, Britain was very rich. And in 1975, in between many things happened. Some scientists, they identified what is global warming and what is greenhouse gas effect, and why greenhouse gas, what are all greenhouse gases, at what stage it creates warming effect. All these things were studied during 1972 to 1712 to 1975. I'm not explaining, itself it will take one day to explain. But in 75, one scientist named Walsh Broker of USA from Columbia University, his research was mainly to see how the natural system is impacting climate. And his study was how ocean was influencing climate change, atmosphere. Then he thought that global warming and climate change. In 75, these names or these names for global warming and climate change were addressed. Then the governance started at the global level. Then climate governance is shaped by international government arrangements and organizations. Again, it started from 1972 to 92. 2 decades it took to initiate some action, which will lead to governance, then formulation of policies, then implementation. In 1972, the first Earth Summit, that is Human and Environment, happened in Stockholm, where our then Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, was also present. There it was highlighted that human health and poverty and environment all are linked. During that stage, some scientists felt that there is air pollution or there is change in air condition. Under that head, climate change, the situation was need to be studied. The emphasis was given in first 1972. Then in 79, first World Conference on Climate Change. Scientists and other policymakers, they got together and thought that, yes, we need to give attention to sort out what is climate change. Then in between 1985, the first convention, Vienna Convention on to protect the ozone layer was adopted. Why? Because some gases we have started using since 1927, the chlorofluorocarbon for our cooling effect, what we are feeling here now in India Habitat Center, that chlorofluorocarbon, which is a cooling agent. Then by 1960, it was discovered that these cooling agents were creating problem in atmosphere, particularly stratosphere, and some changes are happening on Earth's surface. They have identified some gases, and in 1987 Montreal Protocol, they had a protocol to phase the gases out by 2010. All chlorofluorocarbon and other ozone depleting substances are phased out. But they have introduced some gases, we will discuss again. In 1988, Global Forum constitute an intergovernmental panel on climate change, that IPCC. They initiated studies and confirmed that there is change in climate system, which is known as climate change, due to human influence. And in their report in 1990, they confirmed that the climate change what we are witnessing now, these are all human influenced. And in 92, the second Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, global community, they established or they adopted 3 conventions. All 3 are interlinked. One is United Nations Framework on Climate Convention, then a convention on biodiversity, and convention on desertification. All these 3 are interlinked, but what our topic is today, climate change. We will deal with only United Nations framework. Very carefully they have worded. It is a framework only, not very protocol or any treaty, direct treaty, framework on conventions. But desertification and biodiversity, what we listened in the previous session also, biodiversity is linked with these 2 aspects: climate change, temperature change or variation of rain pattern, or land degradation. Biodiversity is linked, and land degradation again is linked with the temperature, rain pattern, and your influence of biotic organism on land. These 3 are interdependent. Then in 1997, here what the global governance means here in the context of UNFCCC, to tackle the threats posed by the climate change. What was the main role of UNFCCC? That requiring coordinated action from all nations. It is essential for effective mitigation, adaptation, and resilience building through shared responsibility for emission control, addressing cross-border impacts. Climate doesn't have any geographical or political line. And then addressing economic stability and sustainable development, then support for vulnerable nations, and scientific collaboration and innovation. These are all the theme of UNFCCC to look after, to constitute or to establish a proper governance system. It may be good or bad, but their intention was to have a system on place. Then who are all the stakeholders? We are talking of United Nations Framework on Convention. Here, international organizations and agreements. There are various other multilateral environment agreements are also associated. Then national government and all policy bodies. Then private sector and industry, civil society and NGO, then non-state actors. Then what they intend to do in future, they're strengthening the public-private relationship and enhancing climate diplomacy. What we are facing today, the climate diplomacy, you might have read in a newspaper, with the change of political system, a particular country, how things are moving. Then cities and local bodies, government in climate adaptation and mitigation effects. Then what are the functions of the governance? The providing guidance and signal to actors, setting rules to facilitate collective actions, enhancing transparency and accountability, then offering support, finance, technology, capacity to, for actions, then promoting knowledge and learning. Here again, I'm coming back to the UNFCCC 92, what it has recognized in its document. Okay, the UNFCCC, they have prepared a document which was negotiated during 92 and finally adopted. What it contains, mostly the convention recognized that there was a problem. then sets a goal under Article 3 and under Article 2, it sets a goal that the greenhouse gas need to be stabilized. Okay, need to be stabilized. Then it has also principle that common but differentiated responsibility of different actors. Then puts the onus on developed countries to lead the way. That was the one issue till now we are facing, that UNFCCC advised the developed nations to initiate action and provide support to developing nations to act something. Then directs new funds to climate change for some financial provision, and they have also control over the problems and what is happening and what they could do. Then the reporting system, each country need to submit its information to the UNFCCC. Then kicks off formal consideration of adaptation to climate change. What is adaptation means? We have to adapt to it. Suppose temperature is changing, and if gradually we are acquainted with that, we don't need any AC, means we are adapting. Or we are having a AC inside to compensate the heat, we are adapting to the environment through the air conditioning system. This is the way we are into. Then conference of party, they have created also one apex body which is known as Conference of Parties, and those countries, they have ratified the convention, they became party to the UNFCCC. Then what are all institutional mechanisms? There is governing, there is the Conference of Party, and now we have three treaties, two sub-treaties under UNFCCC. One is Kyoto Protocol and another is Paris Agreement. For them, first, for convention, it is Conference of Party. Then second one is the CMP, and third one, the Paris Agreement, it is CMA. Then there are the two subsidiary body. One is to advise on scientific issue, another is on policy issues. Then process management, all three meeting parties, they meet annually to discuss the issue based on the existing scientific information provided by IPCC and other scientific bodies. Then there is a secretariat to support the convention. Then the other constituted body, that the technical committee and Paris committee on capacity building, then standing committee on finance, these are the subcommittee to address different issues. They have been considered under this. Then other treaties under UNFCCC, as I mentioned, that Kyoto Protocol was first in 1997, advised or mandated only developed country to phase out, to reduce their emission, greenhouse gas emission, 5% to 8% by 2012. But it was not mandated for a developing country. But Kyoto Protocol here involved, addressed the issue through the implementation mechanism, joint implementation and clean development mechanism. This through clean development mechanism, many developed countries, developing countries, they got assistance, financial support through implementation of their projects, the credit which was taken by developed country. Then the Paris Agreement, here again, till Kyoto Protocol, the system was top-bottom, because there was some policies at top level which was followed by bottom. Then Paris Agreement has brought the situation like choose your own adventure approach to climate change. Here they have introduced that each nation, they have to have their own nationally determined contribution for how to take action during 5 years to reduce the greenhouse gas emission in order to keep the temperature level 2 degree or 1.5 below the industrial evolution. Then here also the cities became a focused transnational climate policy. In the process, Conference of Parties, they initiated the other stakeholders like city mayors and city administrations to take immediate action to reduce their emission of greenhouse gas. In sum total, the evolution of the climate regime is best understood as a growth in authority. Then Paris Agreement, again there are, I have explained of course all these things. Then here one thing, under Paris Agreement, each 5 years after submission of your national
डॉक्टर सतपति
determined
जी
contribution,
2 मिनट में कंक्लूड कर दीजिए.
I will try. There is a global stock take which advise the global body what further action need to be accelerated to achieve the targets. Then other organizations which are also associated with this system is UNG, General Assembly, G8, then G20, all these organizations, they are also associated with climate change. Then policy, again, how finance policy was developed. We are talking the policy at international level. Finance policy, first there was a adaptation fund created under Kyoto Protocol. Then in Cancun summit in 2010, Green Climate Fund was established. Prior to that, Global Environment Fund was advised to assist all developing countries to provide financial support for to initiate action. And loss and damage is an issue which was Article 7 of Paris Agreement. It was decided for financing in COP27. Then COP29, they have a new regime, that new collective quantified goal of funding, which is under discussion. What will happen in future, that will be known in next meeting or in future in 2028. India is going to host. By that time, we may have particular level of funding for developing country. Then how reporting, I told national communication, thereafter in 2010, it was decided that the summary of your national communication need to be submitted for review or analysis. Now, from this year onwards, each country, including both developed and developing country, they are submitting BTR, Biennial Transparency Report. Here, what was the fundamental principle of Paris Agreement? What you are doing, you need to be very transparent so that global community will know what you are doing. Then technology transfer, again, it is the evolution took place. Technology transfer framework in COP7, first it was initiated. Then in COP14, it was some shape was given with the financial support from JEF. Then technological mechanism was supported by COP16 in 2010. Then Paris Agreement, again, it has established that under Article 10 that there will be transfer of equipment, technology from developed to developing or south to south or north south, all these things happen. Then a framework has been developed in 2018, which is now supporting the both developed and developing country for initiating action. Then capacity building, again, gradually the funding or advice from international body is flowing towards various countries, how to enhance our capacity to deal with the climate change issues. Then I'm just coming out to the national policies. I will take 2 more minutes. This is in our constitution, what my previous speaker, of course, legally I'm not sound, but I developed ozone rule in India with the help of course, advocate. 48A of the constitution and 42nd amendment 1974. We can correlate 1972, thereafter India immediately amended. Then Article 51A, the fundamental duty of citizen to protect the environment, it has come. And last year there was a decision, there was a court judgment, Supreme Court judgment, which Supreme Court recognized a constitutional right against the adverse effect of climate change, affirms as it is a fundamental right under Article 21 and 14 of the Constitution. Yeah, Ranjit Singh versus Government of India. And this is the way our constitutions and our judiciary system has taken cognizance of the fact. Then what are the principles Government of India has adopted? It has followed the India's climate policy is inclusive growth policy, poverty eradication, social development, and the constitutional provision. And we had our environment policy in 2006 in chapter 14, where the climate change issues were highlighted. Then it also promotes a climate-friendly lifestyle, and presently it is very popular in India and abroad. Life Mission, which was promoted by our Prime Minister. Then another one, India is following that principle, Article 3 of the UNFCCC, common but differentiated responsibility and respective capability. And again, India internationally, how we are collaborative. India took lead for establishment of International Solar Alliance, then the Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, and Global Biofuel Alliance. Then key regulatory support, Environmental Protection Act, it is there, and under that various rules. Then Biodiversity Act, then Energy Conservation Act 2001 and Amended Act 2022. Of course, I wrongly written. Then Electricity Act 2003 and National Disaster Management Act 2005, National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. That these are the acts or regulatory framework supported. Then India has its own national action plan, which has 10 national missions. Each mission has its own objective. It starts with solar mission, then mission on enhanced energy efficiency, then national water mission, agriculture mission, sustainable habitat, then national mission for Himalayan, then national action plan on health, then transport. Under all these national missions, this belongs to respective ministries, and they have prepared their own strategy with a target, which are being reflected in our national communication and NDC every year. And here, everybody knows probably what are all the commitment India has made so far, and the achievement I have given in red. Where emission intensity reduction 30% we have reduced, which is much before the target date. Then 50% of cumulative target energy to be produced from non-fossil, we have achieved 46%. Then our target is to make the India carbon neutral or net zero by 2070, and we have committed the life to preserve or protect our environment. Then there is one submission. It is submitted to the UNFCCC by Government of India. It is a long-term low-carbon development strategy. And whatever activities we are undertaking, Government of India has advised respective ministry through their strategy. They should see that it should be low carbon intensity activity. And there are various activities I have listed. And then policy scheme to climate action on energy, then clean energy is our objective. Then energy efficiency is also we are undertaking. Then our home, which we are following as per the amended act. Nowadays, you must have seen we are all using LED bulb and all these things. We are very much concerned. Then industries, yes. Recently, there is a notification. Around 380 industries, they have been advised by 2028, they have to reduce certain quantity of energy intensity. Then space cooling, what we are using, India has its own national cooling plan. And I don't know whether IHC has changed from CFC to other gases. When it was constructed, I was here inside in the building. There they have used CFC 12. They have now switched to HFC 134A, and the third conversion is going on. And this is the way how our energy efficiency under the Environment Conservation Act we are regulating in different sectors. Then policy and schemes for transport. Everybody now is aware that we are going for electric vehicle, and in more fuel efficiency. We have switched over from Bharat 4 to 6 now, and we are having now 6A. Next year probably we are going to have Bharat 7. Then Coastal shipping and island waterways are also, we are trying to avoid, eliminate or switch over from diesel to solar. And policy action, economy resources efficiency, the policy and ecosystem facilitation, then material recovery and facilities, then mission life. This again, whatever actions we are taking here, it is both, it supports to adaptation as well as mitigation. Here, while we are taking adaptation action in water sector, suppose we are conserving water, means we are saving some fuel for its transport. This is the way. There are 7 points that in water sector. Uh, then food security is again very important. India's millet program. Why it is important? Because we are reducing our rice consumption. Rice is more water intensive crop. And integrated development of horticulture, the national innovation in climate resilient agriculture. This is a research program. Then organic farming, because to avoid the manure which is causing N2O, nitrous oxide. Then Mahamantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. Again, it will add to your plate to reduce some rice or other energy intensive or water intensive component. Then crop insurance. Then biodiversity conservation, of course, I will focus here. We are focusing now on blue economy, the conservation or protection of habitat near the coastal zone, so that we are getting more economy from that blue area. Then financing green transition in budget 2024 23-24, there are 7 programs, very intensive program aiming towards the climate protection, and this was known as Saptarshi, 7 priority of the budget to provide climate finance. Then climate financing through national budget for all these activities. Of course, time constraint, I cannot read, but if anybody wants for information, this PPT can be taken from the. Then policy and span for carbon neutrality, then forest fragmentation, then compensatory afforestation, then Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam. Again, yesterday it was 2 days back, Prime Minister repeated the same thing, Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam pe. Then green credit program, it is very good initiative in India. If you are saving some credit, environmental credit, you will get some finance. Then national afforestation program, which is under, again, we are promoting, government is promoting plantation system, what our chairman introduced. And then climate policy at state level, yes, there are national policies, but since 2009, in a meeting in August 18th, 2009, the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh requested all chief ministers to have their state action plan on climate change in the line of a national action plan and consistent with the objective of all 10 national missions. And in the first stage, all 35 states, they had prepared their state action plan. Of course, during those days, adaptation was the prime objective. And after 2016, all states, they are trying to update it. Out of them, 18 they have updated with having focus both mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation means reduction of greenhouse gas emission. And here again, of course, there are some issues regarding finance. And here I'm telling the global governance, where it is. Is it failed or it is progressing? Despite of progressing, there are some failures because of some clauses, CBDR principle, and some developing country, those who were not emitting enough greenhouse gas after 2001, they are the leading emitter, like India and China, Brazil. These are the some, because provisions are same. We are not accountable too much under a convention. There are some progress revision need to be made at governance level. That's why last in 2023, our Prime Minister told climate change cannot be fought from conference table. What we are discussing or what have been and alone, it has to be fought from dinner table in every home. that every individual need to see what I am eating, whether it is a carbon footprint is less or more, how many lights I am having my dinner dining room, how many how much rice we have, how much non-veg we have, all these things are accounting for carbon footprint. Then the behavioral change that must begin at every home. And one of our minister, Anil Madhav Dave, he's no more, in Marrakesh meeting, his slogan was, there should be some Jana Andolan. Everybody need to revolt against himself first. Then only things will happen. What it was told by our chairman also, one need to initiate at oneself. And thank you for the sharing. Of course, it is not scientific, it was policy oriented. And we can discuss each issue in a separate session. Yeah, it will give definitely more information to young students. With this, I'm concluding with the blessings of my students.
Thank you, Dr. Satpati ji. It was indeed a very enriching session. Of course, there was paucity of time, but even though you could throw light on many international perspectives, readiness of the country for upcoming 2028 program, many national energy, fuel efficiency initiatives, including blue economy, and definitely these aspects would help the participants, especially the youth sitting here, to think over it, go to home and read more on each and every aspect so that you can take advantage of this session. Now I'd request Professor Savita Karkar ji to take. Professor Savita Karkar ji is a renowned marine microbiologist, former dean and senior professor at Goa University School of Biological Science and Biotechnology, with over more than 3 decades of academic and research experience. She has taught MSc Biotechnology students and guided over a dozen PhD candidates, with more 4 currently under her mentorship. Her work included research on psychophilic bacteria as a part of India's Arctic expeditions 2009 and 2019. Professor Kerkar has authored over 50 international journal articles and 5 book chapters. Her numerous honors include British Council Scholarship 1997, Goa State Best Teacher Award 2020, NASI Women in Research Award 2022, and the Goa State Biodiversity Award 2023. Give a big clap for her achievements. In 2025, she was appointed as expert member of the Government of Goa for the conservation and revival of traditional salt pans, continuing her impactful contributions to science and environmental sustainability. Now over to Professor Kerkar ji.
Thank you, sir. First and foremost, I would like to thank Tibet House and especially Ben Keshila for inviting me here for this session. I'm delighted to speak and share a lot of my research over here, which I feel will be important for you in your life too. Dr. Pramod Kumar Sinha, the chairperson of our session, Dr. Satapati, and Mr. Soumya Datta. So today we had a very nice lunch, and I can see the after effects in the hall as well. So what do you think would be the best thing, the most important thing which was present in each and every dish today in the food? If that wasn't there, the food wouldn't have been tasty. What is it? Salt. So I think all of us need a pinch of salt in our lives and also in our food every day. Now the whole world is manufacturing salt, okay? We have it everywhere in the world. But because of the increase in the population, because of global warming, the areas are getting smaller and smaller every day. The areas where we make salt, I'll give you an idea about it, then you'll have a overview. And also, the politicians are converting lands in Goa especially and filling up the salt pan areas and making buildings, okay? So most of the Delhi population has come to Goa recently because they say that they don't have good air to breathe here in Delhi, so they have a second house in Goa. So we have been having a boom in constructions in Goa as well, and all the land fillings are going on. The rice plantation also has decreased. So they all blame it on global warming, but it's just constructions and constructions. You can see it everywhere in India, wherever you go. I don't know if that's going to be healthy for us. Now, my talk today is restoring the balance of marine ecosystems. I'm a marine microbiologist, so I'll go into the microbiology of things because I feel that microorganisms are the ones who regulate everything in our environment. They are the ones who detoxify all the problems which humans make, okay, and make the air more clearer for us to breathe. So whatever we have it because of the microorganisms. Also the plants, of course, because there's a direct interrelationship between all living organisms. Now, salt pans and their importance is my topic because salt has a lot of microorganisms which we eat along with the salt, which are very healthy for our gut, okay? Now, when we take a dose of antibiotics, all the normal flora in our digestive system dies. And then we have an imbalance of digestion. And this normally happens because the microorganisms in our gut get destroyed. So we have to replenish them. So we take more tablets, we take probiotics, we take so many things. But a pinch of salt has so many bacteria which are very good for our digestive system. Now, all of you at home must be having the commercial salt, which is Tata salt or Saffola salt and all that. Let me just tell you in 1 minute the difference between these two salts. If you have the natural salt, this is it, and I would like you to taste a little bit. There's a wooden spoon inside, you can taste a grain of it. I give this to all my students. I've been teaching for 34 years. I was also the chief warden of the ladies' hostel. So anyone who had a throat infection, it was this salt which they had to take a pinch and sleep with it under their tongue. So it just clears your throat. And this salt has such a beautiful taste because it has 74 nutrients, which are more than the commercial salt which you have. Commercial salt is a free-flowing salt. When you put it in a bottle, it flows very easily because it has aluminum silicate. And aluminum silicate is a chemical by which you get Alzheimer's later in your old age. So it goes and deposits in the brain. So the more refined the products are, the more dangerous they are to humans. So it's better to have crude salt with a pinch of mud. There may be some mud in it because it's made openly, but the refined salt is much more dangerous because it has a lot of added chemicals. Now, there was a big forum also in the whole world where they said local salt is very bad for health because it doesn't have iodine. You have so many advertisements on the TV which they say supplemented with iodine, you have to give it to improvise the brain of your children and all that. You know, you need to have iodized salt. You must have heard that. But our natural salt has plenty of iodine. I've done work on it, I've published papers, and this is the weapon I used to convince the government that our local salt is effective and it has iodine. Otherwise, everyone on the estuaries would have had a goiter, which is iodine deficiency, and none of us have that, okay? So we have enough of iodine, and this iodine is stable. Even when we cook it and store it, the iodine lasts for more than 3 years. You know, you can keep this salt for more than 3 years with all the nutrients. So it's very healthy. So I advise you to buy the local salt wherever you get it and stop eating your iodized salt. This is lesson number 1 today, which I would like you to take away with you. Okay, so let's go on the journey of the salt pans. Now I just want to tell you what a salt pan is. Now, first we deal with the marine ecosystems. We have the intertidal zones. In the intertidal zones, the natural ecosystems are the mangrove ecosystems, the coral reefs, which are supposed to be the Amazon of the marine environment. And we have the marine salt pans or the salt pans or marine salterns, we also call them, which are the only man-made ecosystems, marine man-made ecosystems. They are not naturally made. Human beings make these ecosystems. The second is the open oceans, where we have the marine organisms which control it. And we have the deep seas, where the sediments have the maximum organisms. And 4 is the hydrothermal vents. How many of you have heard of hydrothermal vents over here? So hydrothermal vents are more than 4,000 meters deep, right in the deep sea. And there are chimneys there which emit smoke. They are called black smokers. And the tinier hydrothermal vents are the white smokers, which emit white smoke. Okay? And these have a biodiversity of organisms around them which detoxify the toxic gases which are emitted from this smoke and make the water pure. So there also organisms have a very active role to play. So these are the ecosystems. So these are the mangrove ecosystems. I think all of you must have seen these. Okay, so we have different types of mangroves, and they are so important because each mangrove supports a biodiversity of organisms. Like we have Rhizopora species. Only on that species the honeybees come and make their nest to make honey, not on any other species. So if we destroy Rhizopora species, that's the end of honey from the mangrove species, you know. So they are very, very important in many things. We have the coral reefs, which are very rich in biodiversity of fish and organisms and mollusks and sea squirts, and lots of bioactive compounds have been made from these organisms, which are very useful for humankind. We have the open oceans, a lot of bacteria in the oceans, on the fish, on the living mammals in the ocean. And these are the hydrothermal vents which I was discussing about. These are the plumes of black smoke coming out. So if you have a very hot pan, okay, and you're making an omelette and you sprinkle some water on it, what happens? The water will just evaporate, right? The same thing happens when we have a crack in the depth of the ocean. And why does this crack comes? Because there are earthquakes, there are volcanoes on the terrestrial ecosystem, so there is an impact in the marine ecosystem. When a small crack develops in the bottom of the marine ecosystem, all the cold water, which is 0 to 2 degrees, seeps into that and comes out in the form of a spurt. And when this comes out in the form of an explosion, the deeper it is, the blacker smoke you get, because there are lots of minerals like magnesium and iron and basalt which come and dissolve in this, and these nutrients deposit on the chimneys of the hydrothermal vent. So that is a hydrothermal vent chimney.
That's right. I didn't go in detail.
Okay, so these are the marine salt pans. This is a picture which I have clicked on my own. I've done research for salt pans over 30 years now. So I feel all the salt pans belong to me. So if anything happens to them, I feel very bad about it. So what is a characteristic of a salt pan? The salt pans have extreme environmental conditions. Why do we call them extreme? Because they're extreme for humans. We cannot live in so high salinity. If you put your fingers in the sea, your fingers become wrinkled. The sea has only 3.5% of salt. But these have 300 parts per thousand. That is 30%, 50% of salt. That means 500 parts per thousand. Okay, so it's so much of a concentration, these salt pans, and we have bacteria living in these salt pans. So in all the extremophilic environments, we have psychrophiles which live in cold environments. We have thermophiles which live in heated environments, hot springs. We have halophiles. We have alkaliphiles. We have acidophiles which live in extreme acidic conditions. Out of all these extremophilic conditions, halophily is the one which is the most toxic, in the sense, not toxic, but the highest level of extremophilic, okay, conditions. So here we have a lot of, now depending on where it is located, the ions, the minerals in the salt are different. We have two different ways of how the salt originates. One is a direct origin from the seawater, and these are called thalasso-halide. The origin is sodium and chloride ions are dominating. Sodium and chloride is salt, right? But we have athalassohalide, which also belong to not the sea, but saline environments like lakes. and all that. So we have the big salt mono lake, we have the soap lake. The pH is very high, alkaline conditions, okay? And the salinity is more than 10%, and the predominant ions here are magnesium and carbonates, okay? So that is how the salt also tastes very different. So this has a lot of magnesium and iron also, the salt which you had now, okay? Because it's from Goa. So hypersaline environments are those environments where we have high salt concentrations. So these are thalazohaline and athalazohaline, which I told you. So the athalazohaline, the origin is not from the sea. Thalazohaline, the origin is from seawater, okay? So this is thalazohaline. So in thalazohaline, you have salt mine drainage waters, you have playas. Playas are beaches, actual coastal splash zones on the beaches. You have tide pools, brine springs from underground salt deposits. Even in the Arctic, in the North Pole, you have salt because the water crystallizes and the saline water is below that. It doesn't crystallize. So that is taken and they make salt out of it. So everywhere in the world, they make salt, okay? So this is the Great Salt Lakes in US. This is Cape Verde in Italy. Just to give you an overview of what the salt pans look like in different parts of the world. This is in South America, Cusco salt pan in Peru. So you can see the terracing system like steps. So the sea is right on top. And when the high tide comes in, the water flows into the steps. Then Gozo salt pan in Europe. Athalosaline. These are the origin is not from the sea. So you get it in the mountainous range, okay, in the lake regions, in ponds, okay. So even in the Antarctica, we have athalosaline. So this is the Dead Sea in Jordan. I think all of you have heard of the Dead Sea. The salinity, if you go and swim in the Dead Sea, you float on it because the salinity is 43%, okay, very high. This is the Mono Lake, which is a soda brine. You can see structures of mountains. I've exceeded the limit. Oh, no, 3 minutes, okay. Okay, and then we have the salt production in the world, where India is the third. China is first, and it's because of Tibet, because Tibet makes the largest amount of salt, and China takes the credit for it. Then we have United States, and we have India is third in the production. However, in the export, we have India 7th in place, because India consumes a lot, and the industry also consumes a lot of salt, okay? So Netherlands is the first now, and then followed by Germany. So what are the minerals in the salt? I told you there's 75 different minerals. This is my research, which I've done, okay, in the natural salt. And we have macro minerals as well as minor trace elements, and we have adequate of iodine. The iodine recommended WH value is 15 ppm, 15 ppm. Our natural salt has 17 to 40 ppm, and it's very stable. So we have adequate amount of iodine. Okay, this is the China-Tibet, the oldest method of salt making. You can see it on the left side. So they have more than 33,000 salt pans, and they use it by the evaporating technique through the sea, where seawater is let in and it is evaporated, and then they harvest the salt. Okay, so these are the tiny structures. This is an aerial view of the salt pans in Tibet. So you can see so small, each square is one salt pan, okay? It's so beautiful. So this is the Great Salt Lake in Utah, again an aerial view. This is the Etosha salt pan in Namibia in Africa. Here we have the Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia. This is the biggest salt pan in the whole world. Okay, this is the Gozo salt pan in Rome, in Malta. Here in Sicily in Italy, this is the salt pan. And we come to Indian salt. So India has about 11,800 salt manufacturers, and they are all engaged in the manufacture of common salt. Now, all these employees are employed only for 8 months, because now with the climate change, all the seasonal changes have come up. We have the pre-monsoon, the post-monsoon, and the monsoon season. Previously, monsoon season was 4 months, and that's the time when the workers got rest. But pre-monsoon and post-monsoon, the salt is always manufactured. Now, with global warming, the monsoon has been extended. Once the monsoon comes, there's a dilution of the seawater, and the salt doesn't evaporate so fast, okay? So this is Rameshwar and Bhavani salt pen, which is in Gujarat. So the highest one in India is Gujarat, followed by Tamil Nadu. Okay. Now, salt pans is a community-led ecosystem. We have a lot of salt marsh areas which are useful for salt cultivation, but some of them are inundated with seawater and they cannot be used anymore. So millions of workers are engaged in this. We have 150,000 workers per day, which are hired in Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, and Mumbai, and 8 months a year is their employment period. Okay, now in the salt manufacturing season, we have pisciculture, and that same area is used for rice cultivation. So there's a rotation in the crop. So what we want to do in Goa, I've been put in the committee now because I have in the Goa committee. Just now, last month, I got the letter. So I'm happy about it because I can do something for Goa. And so what we have done is those 8 months, we have told the government that they should be paid for 12 months. All the workers, and they will be engaging in fish culture in the monsoon months, as well as they will be doing rice cultivation. But rice grows a particular species of rice called the korgut rice grows in salt pan inundated areas. Okay, and this is one of the work which one of my PhD students has done, and she's made a fertilizer so that this korgut rice can grow efficiently in the salt pans. Okay, in those areas. Okay, so this is the history of the Goan salts. Now, previously Goa used to export its salt to Thailand and Burma and African countries. This was in 1855. However, in 64 and 65, there were 200 salt pans, and the production was around 25,000 metric tons, which is a lot of salt. However, in 2002, the production is only 16,000 metric tons, and only 16 salt pans are there in Goa. So you can see the conversion rate, okay? The destruction rate and the conversion rate. And these are the salt pans in Goa. Okay, can you see the buildings coming up on the sides of the salt pan? And slowly one day you'll see them disappeared. So one day I went to one of my salt pans to collect a sample, and I saw a hotel, bar and restaurant, and it was named as Salt. The salt pan wasn't there at all. There was a restaurant there called Salt Bar and Restaurant. I got a shock. I clicked a photograph and sent it to the press actually, but it was the local minister who had converted it. Okay, so these are some of the salt pans in Goa. Okay, now what is the process of salt pan making? In 1 minute I'll tell you. The seawater comes on a low-lying area in a slope, and there is something called a sluice gate. So through that gate, the water gushes in during high tide, and then the salt pan makers close that area. So that gate is closed. So it comes into a primary salt pan with all the dirt and muck from the sea. It comes in that primary salt pan. Then it settles down there for 10 days, and then they make a small groove here. Can you see this?
Yes, right.
Okay, so okay, so here, patch this up over here. So the water which is coming from the primary one goes through this small lane into the secondary pond. So once you pack this up, the water will remain here. So whatever water you want in the secondary pond, you fill it up and then plug it there. So it is done with mud. Nothing else is used. Okay. Now this is how the salt looks when it starts evaporating. You can see these crystals on the surface, and then these are the salt pan workers who push the salt with this instrument. It's just a wooden, a stick with that small thing like we use when we have water in our houses.
Wipers.
Yeah. So it's just a wooden one here, and then they just put the salt on the sides, and then it accumulates on these bunds. So the wall which is there on the side is known as the bund. Okay, so you can see the salt being accumulated there, and that is the primary pond and the secondary pond, and this is how they gather the salt. So the salt which you are eating is from this mound which I have brought. So these are the monsoon activities in the salt pans. So the same salt pan, they let the water in, it becomes diluted, the salinity, and they plant rice, or they do it for pisciculture, prawn culture and fish culture, local varieties. So these are the halotolerant bacteria which are known as halotolerant which can tolerate high concentration of salt, and halophilic, which loves salt and cannot live without salt. Okay, there are two types of bacteria, organisms. So this is what the water looks like when these halophiles grow in the water. This is a picture from America. You can see even the salt crystals look pink because of the bacteria which produce this pigment. Now you'll ask me, why is this pigment produced? The pigment is produced to protect the bacteria from the sun radiations. Like when we go into the sun, our skin becomes black because we produce melanin. The bacteria produce bacteriorhodopsin, which is a pink colored pigment. Okay, so this is some work from the microorganisms which we got. So I got medicines against anti-Parkinsonism, anti-dementia, antidepressant, anti-gastric ulcer, antifungal, antioxidant, anti-cancer, antipsychotic, and anti-anxiety drugs we have isolated from the bacteria from the salt pans. So we did this work over 30 years. But I feel very happy about it because some of this has gone to CDRI Lucknow and it's being processed as a medicine now. Now this is what the halobacteria look like. If you see them under the microscope, they look like this. This is a SEM picture, that is scanning electron microscopy. So it is magnified 1000 times. Okay, now what is the application of this? So they're used in the food industry for salted foods, leather industry for processing all your bags. Okay, the hides of leather are processed in salt. The commercial production of beta carotene, which is what? What is beta carotene? It's an antioxidant. Where is it present in your vegetables? In carrot. Okay, so if you eat carrots, you have beta carotene. It's an antioxidant. Ectoin is used in creams, in moisturizers to keep your skin moist because the bacteria in the salt pans protect themselves by producing ectoin. Otherwise, they get dehydrated. Yes, I feel like.
Second sleep.
Okay, so this is bacteriorhodopsin, and this is the pigment which is used in information storage. This is a new invention which has come in the market now. I mean, it's not my invention, but I always wonder how can they store data in a pigment, you know, it's used for data storage, and this is the future of data storage now. Dunaliella salina is a beautiful organism. It's a cyanobacteria, okay? And this cyanobacteria produces beta carotene, and these are the tablets in the market if you want pure beta carotene. Then they isolate the pigment, which is an orange pigment, and that is used, you can see, in feeding salmon fish so that the meat becomes more orange and it gets a higher price in the market. For making the rosa is marigold flowers, more orange. So you put it in the manure and give it to the marigold, they become more orange. And a new company has come which is called Cosmenutrients, where cosmetics are infused with nutrients so that you have a better porosity in your skin and your skin can breathe. Okay? So these beta carotenes are also put in cosmetics. This is a very beautiful creature called Artemia salina. It is a hypersaline prawn which is microscopic and it's used as a fish feed. And this can survive and in your next life, if you want to survive in your whole life, you can become an Artemia. Pray to God that you become an Artemia because Artemias don't die. They produce cyst. When they don't like the environment around them, they get transformed into a cyst. And this cyst can be stored in your drawer for more than 100 years. Once you put it in water, it becomes Artemia. Okay, so it's such a wonderful organism. So this is the formulation which my student has made. Her name was Amruta. She's a scientist now in Dubai. So she made this fertilizer to grow Korgut rice. Then another girl, Samantha Fernandez, she is now teaching in our department. She's made a prawn feed to make the prawns fatter. So this is from the salt pan organisms. Then we have made a medicine to preserve mushrooms where you increase the shelf life. Mushrooms become black in the fridge if you store them for 1 or 2 days. You know, the agaricus species. So if you spray this on the mushrooms, they remain fresher for about 10 days. Then we have detoxifying hydrogen sulfide gas from wastewater by using these organisms to strip hydrogen sulfide gas. And these are actinobacteria, different types of actinobacterial species which produce antibiotics. So we we supplied 2 new antibiotics which are going under human trial now. This is biosurfactants which help in oil pollution. These are the bacteria which eat oil. So you can use them to spray on oil spills. So they degrade the oil. So this is also a commercial compound. We want to patent it. We haven't done it yet. These are the different types of salt crystals if you're interested. They look so beautiful. And which is mine? Mine means the one in the middle is what you ate. Okay. The applications of salt, now you know that Colgate is also come with salt Colgate, na? So it's good for the teeth. Then we have deo sticks. We have salt inhalers which are used for asthma. Okay, natural. It's just salt which you have to inhale. And then you can see the neti pot where you wash your sinusitis if you have it. I mean, in Delhi, I think it will be very useful in the next 10 years. And here we have salting of fish. Nothing happens to the fish for the whole year if you use the local salt. You use your commercial salt and this fish will decay within 1 month. And this is an artist called Motoi Yamamoto. He's from Japan and he only does art with salt. So I found this very interesting. You can see him just doing designs with salt and he earns millions of dollars with this art. Okay, he's an installation artist. So since my husband is also an artist, I read a lot about art, but when it comes to salt, it's more interesting for me. Okay, so my message is to conserve the salt pans and its immense biodiversity. And on its own, the salt pans acts as a sponge to protect the whole marine ecosystem. So when we have these hurricanes and, tufan, everything, the salt pans are the one which act as a buffer to protect our marine ecosystem. And what we are doing now in the scheme which I've provided to the government, we are formulating, 4 issues we are addressing. One is to support the active salt pan workers in making the bunds, and also the sluice gates which have got destroyed with the natural calamities. Revival of the lost salt pans where people have no money to revive them. So I've asked the government to provide one fund, so that they can revive them. Restoration of the non-functional and encroached salt pans, and quality assessment and certification for the salt which is produced from them to see that it's not polluted. Okay, and so these are the things which we are going to do at the start for this year. As soon as the the rainy season gets over, we are going to start these activities in Goa. So Mahatma Gandhi also, because of him, we don't have taxes on the salt, so we have to be very grateful to him. 1930, he was the one who complained to the British government that we will not pay any taxes on salt because salt is manufactured in our country. Why should we pay taxes? So this was not passed for many, many years, but he did not let go. A peaceful satyagraha, a Dandi march, he did. And in 1947, when Nehru came into power, this resolution was passed and our taxes were eliminated. So now we don't pay taxes. In the whole world, nobody is paying taxes on salt. Okay, so we have to be grateful to Gandhiji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Savita ji. It was rather very interesting to go through your conversations and your slides. And many of us could know virtually more details how marine ecosystem is being protected through your salt pan initiatives, how global perspective and minerals in salt are being utilized in different areas, how halo tolerant bacteria is again being used in different perspective and their utilities. So definitely it was a very interesting session on marine ecosystem. Now I request our next speaker, Mr. Soumya Datta ji, to kindly take charge. Let me inform, Mr. Soumya Datta ji is a distinguished environmentalist, science communicator, and a leading advocate of the climate justice movement in India. A veteran of the People's Science Movement, he was instrumental in launching two of the country's most significant grassroots science education campaigns, the Bharat Jan Gyan Vigyan Jatha and the National Children's Science Congress. With a career spanning over 2 decades, Mr. Datta has been deeply involved in people's movement across South Asia, focusing on environmental sustainability, climate justice, equitable development, democratic access to energy and resources. He is a founding member of both India Climate Justice and South Asia People's Action on Climate Crisis. He has served on the advisory board of the UN Climate Technology Center and Network. Mr. Datta has contributed over a dozen books and authored more than 100 articles covering a wide range of topics. He has worked extremely on vulnerable communities, offering science and strategic support for environmental safeguards. As an active participant of UNFCCC climate negotiation process for over 16 years, he also led capacity building workshops and delivered lectures at various institutions including US, Europe and China. In addition to environmental work, Mr. Datta is a trained mountaineering instructor and a passion educator. Through his multifaceted contribution, he continues to inspire and influence the fields of environmental justice, science, communication, and sustainable development. Now over to Professor Datta.
Thank you for the glowing introduction. In fact, right at the beginning, I should give an namaskar and good afternoon. Right at the beginning, I should give a few clarifications. One, the abstract printed under my name is not actually the abstract. If my abstract was about the earth, the abstract there in the print is about the Titan. So it's that different. So that's a mistake. I think it will be. So please don't take that. And when I speak, you say there's no match. So that's one clarification. Second is, I was asked to speak about innovative legal measures in tackling climate crisis and restoration. One clarification, I am not a legal person, I am a scientist, and I would have loved to take on and also to provoke you, because in a consultation like this, if everybody agrees, okay, this is good, then it's not so interesting. What do the young people feel? Is it very good? Everybody says good. Don't think critically, don't challenge, don't question. Because I after coming, I didn't hear any questions, that there's no opportunity. I think critical thinking needs a bit of debate, throwing questions in a friendly manner. And I would have really loved to take on the many myths and false solution about climate change, including the myth that planting saplings, let's take on, nobody plants trees, everybody plants a sapling, and that sapling takes 12 years, 10 years, 12 years to grow to a tree. Not all do. If you do a simple math, you'll see even tackling 20% of India's present emission is impossible by converting 75% of India's cropland. So that's not a real climate solution. So I will not go into that here, but if in a later forum, wherever there is this, people need to do maths, because this is a very popular myth. Everybody talks about that. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not against planting sapling. I love to do that. In fact, one place close to Madam your place in Konkan, where I don't belong, but I'm building a small house. Even cracking rock, I'm planting saplings. But that's not the point. Planting saplings is absolutely no solution to the climate crisis. And I can show you by simple arithmetic, if that kind of, and that will be a good mental exercise. Let me come down to the given topic, that what kind of innovations in legal sphere can be used, are being used to address the question of climate change and ecological destruction to restore. Because I was looking at the headline of the session, ecological restoration at a crossroads. It's not only the problems, it's ecological restoration. And balance in an age of climate crisis. I hope I was a little late, so I arrived at towards the end of the inaugural session. So I don't know whether the tipping points, the planetary boundaries, and the runaway climate change rate, these are really highlighted or not, but I didn't hear any of this. No. I think when you talk about climate crisis, without knowing about the planetary boundaries, the earth systems, and the tipping points, you really can't understand anything about crisis. So I think that should have been one of the presentations why we are calling it a crisis. And many scientists whom I know, whom I interacted with, sitting here, I was looking at Dr. Satpathy, then I realized in Marrakesh in 2016, we were there because Anil Madhav Dave at that point, Minister of Environment, Forest, Climate Change, he was very close to us also. And I've been interacting with the ministry off and on. So without understanding the criticality of the tipping points and the earth system, I think climate crisis is really just a term. Anyway, let me come to the legal innovation in using legal innovation to address the climate crisis and ecological restoration. Why do you need legal? If governments are doing all that is needed, if the companies are so good, all are green, forget about that, most of this is greenwashing. If all of them, companies, governments, you, me, everybody is doing green, why do you need legal challenges? So here comes the crux. The Kyoto Protocol that has been talked about, 1997, was called legally binding. Most countries didn't follow this, nothing happened. The Paris Agreement, which again, I am not a big fan. I have been there from 2009 COP, Copenhagen COP, to every COP, every conference of parties, and a lot of intersessionals where a lot of more debates take place. Dr. Shatpathy knows very well. If we are really doing all this as the science demands, as the climate science demands, and IPCC came out with a assessment report 6 cycle, almost 3 years now, the first report. So then we need not have to go to the legal challenge to do anything. Everything is happening nicely. Why are we doing it? Let's not go into the international scene, that will take time, and Dr. Shatpathy has presented the governance framework architecture. Let's look at India. How many of you have heard about the TSR Subramaniam committee report or committee? No one. It was a systemic effort, and let me be very clear. I'll be a little provocative. I'll bring up facts without mouthing niceties only. The TSR Subramaniam committee was constituted, you can look through, it's available in the website, to dilute India's environmental law frameworks systematically. Law after environmental law has been broken down and diluted. The environmental impact assessment notification, which is a sort of backbone of India's environmental regulation, has been modified n number of times. Giving post facto clearance was also proposed. Fortunately, the Supreme Court rejected very recently, but without rejecting all the clearances that has been already given. So you set up a polluting industry, you do pollution at a massive scale, then go and pay a little fine, and you are regularized. You don't need to do EIA, environmental impact assessment. A lot of projects coming up in the coastal areas, those who know, the CRZ regulations have been again and again diluted. Earlier it was 500 meters from the high tide line. It was brought down to 200 meters, 50 meters, now many places 20 meters. So you can build a big structure 20 meters from the high tide line. Not regarding the fact that climate crisis has already increased the cyclone numbers in the Arabian Sea by 100%. And this is not a projection, this is a data. From 2008 to 2023, in the 15 years, if you take 5-year periods, you know that in the 3 seas that we are surrounded by, the Bay of Bengal is more cyclone prone, the Arabian Sea was not so much cyclone prone. But over the last 15-20 years, and this has happened nowhere else in such a speed, the Arabian Sea cyclones have increased 100%. The last study period, 2019-23, 19-20, 21-23, it is 11 cyclones, which was 5 cyclones in 5-year period. And this is the trend. And there is a scientific reason. The sea surface temperatures have broken all records in 23 and 24. And the wind shear has changed in the Arabian Sea dramatically. So looking at all this, our legal frameworks are still being diluted. Our environmental laws are still being broken down. For 35 years, people's movements, grassroots movements, good NGOs, legal researchers have worked day and night, burning the lamp, oil lamp, not exactly oil lamp, electricity, to work out good legal frameworks. The CRJs were one. The EIA is a backbone. The rules brought out that in multiple cases, linear projects will not require EIA. What are linear projects? Roads, canals, transmission lines. Huge amount of infrastructure going through forests, going through very vulnerable grasslands, wetlands, don't need environmental impact assessment. So if you don't do even environment impact assessment, and even after, when the earlier scenario of environmental impact assessment was being done mandatory, we don't have history of environmental rejection for more than 2 or 3 projects. For tens of thousands and projects, only 2 or 3 projects have been rejected earlier at the EIA level. One was, of course, I was very much involved, but I'll not go into that because that might land me in troubles. In case, what is India's environmental performance index? Anybody an idea? If we are doing all so good, we are planting saplings, we are doing all the environmental things, what is India's environmental performance index? 176 out of 183 countries. Does that indicate that we are doing really good? So in this scenario, where our environmental index, environmental performance is abysmal, where over the last several years we are breaking down environmental regulatory frameworks, we are diluting all kinds of environmental laws, and we are bringing amendments like someone mentioned about Disaster Management Act. I must mention this also, the kind of approach that we have. People are aware of the Wayanad disaster. Somebody mentioned here, I think last Wayanad disaster, everybody is aware of. You know what happened as a response to that? Local groups, including some groups that I am involved in Kerala, they mobilized both the Kerala government and the banks to a proposal that those who are affected by the Wayanad disaster, some 400 some families, their bank loan should be waived off because they have taken loan and built houses and other things. Those are now gone. So they are paying EMI. On top of that, they are paying rent in somewhere. So their bank loans should be waived off. And the Kerala bank accepted that. Immediately, which is the custodial framework for disaster management? The National Disaster Management Act. Immediately the government and the custodial ministry is Ministry of Home Affairs. They brought in an amendment, disaster, and this is recent, very recent, the Disaster Management Amendment Bill. What did it propose? It took away the recommendatory powers of loan waiver. Instead of looking at how you can help people, they took away, the amendment took away the recommendatory power of NDMA and SDMAs, that they can just recommend, not mandatory, that loans can be waived off, and all these were centralized in a central crisis management committee. We tried to stop this in Rajya Sabha. It was passed in Parliament, Lok Sabha last December. It came into the Rajya Sabha this March, and we tried to stop it by writing to all members, including the ruling party members. I talked to my friends who are some MPs who have been interacting long, and only 3 opposition MPs turned up to speak against this. So why I am giving this? This will give you an idea if you are pushed to the corner, and not just human beings. The whole of nature is being pushed to the corner just for greed. And some of these come in different forms. Have any one of you, many of you might have heard about the ease of doing business as a policy. Where did it come from? Who proposed it? And this is not only in India, in multiple countries, the World Bank. So the combination of the ease of doing business and
It's a global index.
it's a global index. Now the World Bank got discredited, they had to withdraw it. But this and the environmental dilutions were tied together. So in this case, there are several legal processes that civil society, movement groups, youth groups particularly had to take up. One of the routes is the tort laws, use of tort laws. And this has been used by youth groups in many places. Tort laws can be used in multiple situations. One is negligence. The government has not taken care to correct something where there is a danger. One can be nuisance. These are parts of tort laws. That you have created a nuisance. Then public trust doctrine. These are all part of tort laws. Tort laws are something is wrong, twisted, and you can take it which is not there in common law, not the other laws, not your environmental regulation. So you can use it. It's also been used for transboundary harm. For some industry, some entity in another country doing harm to you, and it happens regularly. And I have been negotiating with Bangladesh groups and India groups and Nepal groups regularly. So that transboundary tort laws. So one of the main routes, and I'll request 2, 3, 4 minutes extra because just through going through this, that has been used by youth groups. One of the very good examples, a couple of examples, one in America, USA, this Juliana versus United States of America. This was dismissed, but this raised a lot of awareness about what kind of harm is being done by the government by not acting. And the youth pointed out, by not acting, that is negligence, you are actually harming our future. The other case, that's from Peru. One farmer, it's very difficult to pronounce the name, Liluala, like something like that. He lodged a case. Of course, all of these are held by groups. Individuals cannot take it up. He lodged a case against the German energy giant RWE. And he challenged, because you are doing so much fossil fuel burning, even in our country and exploring, the glacial lake outburst floods, globs, have increased tremendously. Somebody mentioned globs also earlier session. And if you think, this is again a data, in our Satluj river, in the last 5.5 years, the number of glacial lakes have increased from 553 to 1054. And the risk of glacial lake outburst floods all over the Himalayan region has gone up dramatically. You must not have forgotten 2023 South Lonar Lake burst in Sikkim, which was such a massive event, it broke away a massive dam. And countless number of people were damaged. Their houses, people were washed away. And this is another area where tort laws can be used. People are using it. So good thing is this particular case, after initial reluctance, the German legal system, German courts have accepted as a valid case. So it is now in the evidentiary phase. There are many such cases. I will not go into detail because the time is short. The second route that people are now taking, and as I said, I have justified why we must resort to innovative legal challenges. The second route is through laws which are not apparently environmental, which are rights laws. In India, can you mention quickly recent rights laws, rights-based laws, which affects a very large number of people? Have anyone heard about the Forest Rights Act? So Forest Rights Act have been used in a very unique, iconic struggle. How many of you have heard about the Niyamgiri struggle in Odisha? In Niyamgiri Hills, I went there in 2009 on invitation to by the struggle group. Massive mountains which are full of bauxite, and bauxite is a porous mineral which holds a lot of water. So a lot of rivers come out. It's full of forest, full of water, full of food, the whole forest. And Vedanta was trying to cut down the entire mountain to remove the bauxite. So the Dongriakon, which is PVTG, is a Dongriakon who live in the mountain and Majikon who live just below the mountain. Together took out this case. They used the Forest Rights Act, and the Forest Rights Act provides in those areas where the forest rights applies, where indigenous people are living before 2006 December, because 2006 is the year when the Forest Right Act was implemented. 2008 the rules were formulated and notified. And they have successfully challenged it. Initially, their applications, their case was dismissed. Finally, the Supreme Court held the FPIC, free, prior, informed consent, not consultation, is a must for the no objection certificate by the Gram Sabhas. And all 12 Gram Sabhas rejected the proposal. The mining proposal was cancelled. So this has been successfully challenged. The third aspect that I will quickly go, because there are lots and lots of cases where people have successfully and also unsuccessfully challenged destructive projects, built upon their case and restored. In the Forest Rights Act, do you know, is anybody there from Maharashtra, Gadchiroli or Yatmal? These two districts in Maharashtra have done what we are talking about in restoration. They fought for forest rights, and forest rights don't only mean you take something from the forest, because the first part is community forest rights and individual forest right. But the second part of the law provides the indigenous communities, the communities, traditional forest dwelling communities who are living there for centuries, will manage, plan, manage what kind of forest, what richness it will have, what is the original species, not exotic species. So they manage, and many of the villages, hundreds and hundreds of villages, they have regenerated very large forest. Many of the Gram Sabhas are rich. Some of the Gram Sabhas have earned more than 1 crore from just bamboo sales. So there is a possibility of restoration and rural economy regeneration going hand in hand. Unless we take those innovative measures, our formal legal structures are not giving us that space. The formal legal structure, I will repeat, is actually pushing people out of their land. And I can give n number of examples from Assam and Arunachal. Right now, there's a massive fight going on in Arunachal. The indigenous people there are massive police, and which is called this Central Armed Police Force, have been posted, because people are saying, don't drown our villages. More than 110 villages are going to be drowned for a big dam. And they said, we don't have any other place to go. But our development juggernaut cannot stop. So a lot of police camps, not police camps, Central Armed Police Force have been put there. People have been arrested. One young advocate who was leading this struggle, called Ibo Mili, he disappeared sometime. Fortunately, he came back. So this is happening throughout India. And not only India, I'll end by saying this. We are it seems the governmental process of both the largest democracy by number and the richest democracy now are in a race to the bottom. They are actually in a race. How do you break down all environmental regulations? How do you make corporate profiteering the primary target? How do you displace people who have some rights? And how do you even break down your rights framework? And in face of that, in both countries, I don't need to explain what is happening in USA today. Right from, if you think about climate change action, the Inflation Reduction Act of Biden was one of the backbone of climate action. Immediately after coming back, Trump abolished that, and along with many others. So this leaves us, particularly the young people, because our lifetime will be how much? 20 years, 15, 20 years will be gone. 25 years at most. But the young people will be here for next 40, 50 years, and the next generation. And by all scientific evidence, every study, whether it is the planetary boundaries, whether it is the conservative IPCC AR6, whether it is India's own 2020 study by the Ministry of Earth Science, the impact of climate change over the Indian region, it's a public domain, you can look at it. All of these are showing we are entering a very, very difficult region. Next 20 years, next 10 years, we are going to cross in this, just after this decade, going to cross this first red line of 1.5 degrees. So I'll, particularly to the young people here, please open your eyes. Don't think everything is going goody-goody. Don't think that some of you who are the privileged and elite they can get and the rest of the country can be happy. So there is lot of crying needs for understanding. Depth of understanding has to be increased. Throw critical questions. Go deeper into what people are saying and what your documents are saying. And then if you have courage, take up the challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Soumya Dattaji. It was quite provocating session, and definitely, as most of the speakers right from beginning has been conveying, the onus has to be taken by each and every individual. Each and every individual has to be ambassador. So the concluding session of Datta Saab brought to that with many legal bindings, throwing light on gaps in existing systems in place, challenges, and nevertheless, for a country of close to 150 crore population, there will be many more such challenges. So there has to be a balance between system in place and what are the emerging requirements, challenges, as Mr. Datta conveyed. And definitely there will be some emerging lines which can bridge the gaps and bring a kind of situation which will be equitable with social justice.
Thank you, Dr. Pramod Kumarji, for chairing this session, and thank you for three esteemed speakers for sharing your respective expertise from policy making to marine ecosystem. It was really productive, and unfortunately, our fourth speaker was not able to come today due to certain reasons, but we have his presentation, and we'll be sharing his presentation to all the participants and speakers through email. And without taking much time, I would like to request Professor Renuka Singh, Director General of Tushita Mahayana Meditation Center, to please come over the stage and hand over the souvenirs to our chairperson and respective speakers. We have our chairperson, Dr. Pramod Kumarji, faculty, social reformer, and think tank development sector, entrepreneurship. We have our first speaker, Dr. S. Satapathy, former Director, Climate Change and Government of India. We have our second speaker, Professor Savita Kiekar, a marine microbiologist, former Dean and Senior Professor, School of Biological Science and Biotechnology, Goa University. Please give a huge round of applause. Lastly, we have Mr. Soumya Dattaji, visiting Senior Fellow, South Asia People's Climate Action. Thank you so much, everyone. And now we are left with our last session of today. Maybe after the session, we do not have much time right now for the question and answer session. Now we left with our last session, which is the most interesting session of today, which is student panel discussion. And I'd like to request my colleague Kamal Zombala to moderate this session. Thank you so much.